Hi, I'm Laura Meyer, and today we'll be examining how to fill out a SIPOC. A SIPOC is a tool in the DMAIC problem-solving method. DMAIC is an acronym for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. We use a SIPOC in the define phase to get alignment on the boundaries and scope of a project. A SIPOC is a useful tool that depicts how a process serves the customer and summarizes the inputs and outputs of the process in a visual format. Today we'll look at a brief overview of the SIPOC itself, then we'll fill one out together, and end the session with a recap. SIPOC is an acronym. It stands for Suppliers, Inputs, Process, Outputs, and Customers. We don't fill out a SIPOC in the traditional way from left to right. Instead, we start with P, the process, then move to O, outputs, then customers, then we go back to the left, fill out inputs, and finally suppliers. The process we will examine with the SIPOC today will be visiting the doctor. Let's get started. You will need a large piece of paper or a whiteboard, a stack of sticky notes, markers, and it's helpful to have a SIPOC template for reference. As I mentioned earlier, a SIPOC always starts in the middle with the process, and then we build our way out. Step 1 is identifying the process you want to map and defining its scope and boundary points. So pinpoint the starting and end points of your process, then list the major steps. We usually stick to 5 to 7 steps so that we're looking at the 10,000-foot view. If you find yourself listing more than 7 steps, try combining steps or reassess and refocus your efforts. We want just the high level for this tool. For today's example, we're looking at the process of seeing the doctor. So you want to write that title at the top of the page along with the current date. Our boundaries are going to be from when we walk into the clinic to when we actually see the doctor. Those will be our endpoints. We'll create a sticky note for the beginning, check in with the reception desk, and one for the end, seeing the doctor. We'll leave some room in between to fill in the rest of the steps. If you're following along with your own SIPOC, pause this for a minute and fill out the beginning and endpoints for your process, or you can copy this one for future reference. Now let's fill in the middle steps. A nurse or assistant comes to get the patient and collects the height and weight. Then we move to the exam room and the vital signs are recorded. The next step is gathering an assessment of how the patient is feeling. Why are they here today? Any medications they might be taking and concerns to pass on to the doctor? We won't dive into the questions asked or different scenarios, as we want to keep this at a high-level overview. Call a timeout if folks start getting in the weeds. Next, we move to outputs, products or services that are a result of the process. We will move to the right on the map and list the outputs under O. In our case, the outputs are going to be information, since that's the product that is generated from the process. The information includes billing and insurance info, patient health conditions and concerns, and patient vital signs. Our next step is to consider the customers. We're going to identify both the internal and external customers of the outputs. You can capture them by name, title, system, or organizational entity. Our customers are business managers who receive the billing information, patients who receive feedback on their vitals, the doctor, and finally, patient records are also updated, so here we're listing a system instead of a person, as it needs to be reflected on the map. In addition to listing who our customers are, we also need to look at their requirements. What do they value? What do customers expect or demand? What are they entitled to in the fair exchange of value? Our process is one that involves information exchange, and that's also reflected in the customer's needs, as they all have the same expectation of timely, accurate information. Moving to step 4, we'll shift our focus to the inputs, all of the human, capital, information, materials, and natural resources needed to complete the process. Because our process revolves around information exchange, our inputs are primarily forms: the patient's billing and insurance form, vitals and current health form, and the patient health questionnaire. We've now reached our last step, suppliers. Who supplies the necessary products or information to the process? In our example, we've identified the receptionist as the one who provides the billing and insurance information, and sometimes the health history form. The nurse provides the vitals and current health form, and the patient, of course, supplies all of the data needed for all of the forms. Similar to customers, it's important to capture the supplier's requirements. These needs should link to a specific output and describe a single performance criterion or factor that should be expressed in observable or measurable factors. In our example, the suppliers have the same needs as the customer: timely, accurate information. Congratulations! You've now completed a SIPOC, but don't rest on your laurels just yet. You'll want to share this with other folks who are involved in or affected by the process to make sure you captured everything and make adjustments as needed. When you're confident all the information is accurate, review again with your team to get agreement. Time for a recap. A SIPOC is a tool to provide a full spectrum analysis of the process in a visual form. We start by identifying the process we want to map and then set the boundaries. Then we gather up our crayons and our pencils, or in this case, a big sheet of paper or whiteboard, a stack of sticky notes, and markers. Always start with P, process. Place the beginning and end steps first, then fill in the middle steps. Remember that we're looking at the 10,000-foot level, so don't get in the weeds with your process steps. Limit them to around 5 to 7. Next, move to outputs, then customers, then inputs, and end with suppliers. All right, let's go over some key points. Don't complete your map in a silo. When you have a draft complete, share it with individuals who are involved or affected by the process. Keep your focus on a high-level overview. And finally, remember that a SIPOC is a visualization tool used to gain understanding and alignment. It is not an end product in and of itself. Thank you for completing your SIPOC with me. I wish you luck and clarity on your SIPOC journey. Lean forward today.